Senator Griffo, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Keeler, Jeff, and Andrew.
Good morning.
What is going on with
You got
this?
you got some Sanders mittens there for Manaski.
Did you see Bernie Sanders is in the studio this morning? Yes, he's all bundled up. The air conditioning has really got him a little chill going through his bones.
Got to talk to Town Square about that, right?
That's right. Yep, that is absolutely right. I want Sue to tell her story. And I want you to listen to this because what I find unbelievable is our story is, so I have a relative that signed up, and they signed up last Wednesday, and then we found out the next day the vaccine link was premature, and they're canceled. Everything's canceled. Sorry, you're canceled. You'll get a notice in your email. We never did. Yesterday, Joe, we received an email. She received an email that said, this is a reminder. Now, her initial vaccination was at Aw Delicious coming up on Tuesday. This is a reminder. You have a vaccination appointment on Tuesday at SUNY Poly. Now, I'm now hearing the people that have gone there and received the same type of notice have been turned away. Here's Sue in Utica who has a story. Hi, Sue. Tell the senator what happened to you.
Well, a very similar situation as yours. My daughter had us both signed up for the Autolicious, and our confirmation, everything was in order. And then to come to find out, then we, got the confirmation, and we're going to go to the Autolicious. Then we're hearing the stories about the cancellation.
Right, cancellation.
This week, I didn't get a cancellation.
Right, you did not get a cancellation.
No cancellation whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So this week, on Monday morning, I'm getting confirmation that my appointment for today, which was originally at the Autolicious, is going to take place at SUNY Poly at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I said, well, I'm going to show up just in case.
Smart.
Well, of course, there's no vaccine for me. But they did check and I do have one for the 31st.
Well, that's another appointment, right? That's another appointment that you had to make. But
but they checked the list, and they says, yes, you're on here. So
how is it, Joe, that Sue received a confirmation moving it from Aw Delicious to SUNY Poly for this morning at 8 o'clock, and they reject her? How is this happening?
So first thing is I want Sue to call our office after 8:30 if she'd be willing, because I want to further delve into her situation, because she's the first one that did not receive a cancellation that was turned back. Some who received cancellations before were also turned back. This is ridiculous. This is outrageous.
Sue, I'm gonna put you on hold, and Andrew will give you the number over at Joe's office so you can call over there later on this morning. Go ahead, Joe.
So this is the height of frustration and confusion, and it's unacceptable. And we see a system that is working so smoothly under the county executive here in Oneida County at MVCC in Rome. And yet you see a refusal of the governor to support their efforts by supplying them vaccines, and then blaming the inventory on the fact that the federal government is not providing what they need. But what you've seen is by establishing these new sites, he's taking away from existing sites. So in my opinion, and we've discussed this with his staff, they would have been better off waiting till they could collaborate with the local governments, like in this case, Oneida County, who was doing a good job, rather than just going to compete with somebody right now. The ultimate objective is to get shots in the arm, and we need as much as possible. And obviously, we're working on new inventory, things of that nature, new approvals from the FDA. But in the interim, I think what's happening here is this inability to communicate and to collaborate through a cooperative effort to ensure how do we do this best. So that leads to great frustration, great confusion, and it's unacceptable.
I agree.
Additionally, Senator, I don't know what guidance was given, and I'll ask Tony Piceni. He's scheduled to join us later. My understanding is, for instance, if you went to MVHS and received a first shot, they have your second shot on hand that they've kind of reserved for you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to one of the Oneida County clinics, if they get 500 doses, they dole out 500 doses. They don't give it to 250 and then save 250 for your second shot.
That's not true. That's not true.
Are you sure?
Yes. They're For every shot that's given out, that first shot, and Joe, maybe you can talk about this. I hate to act like I know this stuff, but I've dug so much into this. For every shot that's given in New York State, there is a shot reserved for your second shot. Is that how you understand it, Joe?
That is my understanding. And what you have is different classifications initially. And as I said, I think County Executive Pacini is doing a great job here. And really, if they would cooperate and collaborate with him, I think we could really make this thing work even more efficiently. But my understanding is, first of all, there's a CDC guidance, and that is just guidance. That's not telling everybody what they have to do, but what they can do. And then you go to state. Each state is allowed to set its own criteria. In New York's case, he went to the 1A, 1B, 1C. When you started the 1A, there wasn't enough people taking the shots or getting the shots. So as a result of that, they expanded to 1B. Now, 1A was healthcare and nursing homes, staff, and residents, understandably. 1B went into those different categories of education, public safety, essential workers, 65 and over. And as a result of that, you have a huge volume of people now that are eligible. And that's what we talked about before, how we could have prioritized that. One of the things the governor's talking about now, which I think is going to create more confusion, is saying, well, if you're 65, go here. If you're essential, go there. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense. If he would just sit down and cooperate and listen to some of the suggestions that are being made that would make reasonable and logical sense, I think we could resolve a lot of this. Now, obviously, it's contingent upon the supply, and there's a supply and demand issue right now, but that also, I hope, will be resolved moving forward. So right now, it's just too confusing, and it becomes very frustrating. And that illustration today with Sue is unacceptable.
Yep.
That's why I've called upon the district attorneys to look into this, because the governor said that this was a compromised site and it may have been hacked. Well, that's a crime then, and we'll investigate that.
Yeah.
And see. Or was it just unintentionally released prematurely? But then, because he didn't get the official rollout that he had wanted, that he didn't then honor those appointments. Now that would be despicable, and that would be totally problematic if that's the case. Adding to this confusion and frustration.
Well, and then
so what's happening.
And then you add to it something like Sue just went through. I mean, it's one thing they canceled it last week, but it's almost like they're playing with us now. Like, all right, now we have a new invite for you. Go on up there so we can turn you away. I mean, I know that's not going on. Listen, remove politics for just a minute. Joe, you are now apolitical. You're not a Republican. You're not a Democrat. You're not a liberal. You're not a conservative. And the governor is neither either. So you know this guy. You've sat with this guy. You've negotiated with this guy. Let's remove all of it. How do we get to the point where we can all work together and get this done properly with a little humility here and a little honesty that, you know what, everything isn't perfect, but we are going to make it perfect? How do we get there?
Well, that's the point, that this shouldn't be about finger pointing to anybody. It should be an acknowledgement and acceptance that we need to get more supply from the federal government, and hopefully that will now begin with the implementation of the Defense Production Act and some of the new potential vaccines like Johnson & Johnson. So hopefully that's the short, long-term objective. In the meantime, I think where the governor he's a CEO. Forget about the politics, but he's a CEO.
Right.
I'm a former mayor and a county executive, just like the county executive here is running his operation. What we need is more communication there to reach out to say, where are your problems? Where can we work collectively and cooperatively in order to fulfill the same objective of getting shots in the arm? I think that's the problem right now. We're setting up, everybody's just going out and doing something. And even when he has an idea that needs to be vetted, like this new one where you're going to send people to certain areas. Well, what if there's only 100 doses at Kinney's or one of the other pharmacies? Are you going to allow the independents to participate? Like Parkway, they should, because that's a neighborhood pharmacy that people respect. And so I don't know. Ultimately, he needs to present the plan and then be willing to alter the plan in order to do what needs to be done to avoid confusion and frustration. That's the bottom line. And you're now running an operation as opposed to take the politics out, as you indicated.
Yep.
This is now an administrative, operational, effort.
And
I think that's where I see some of the problems.
I said it earlier, Joe. The best leaders are those who show humility, that admit that they're not perfect, that mistakes can be made. And it seems like he can't do that. I don't understand. I have Michael asking, do you think Delicious, this disaster, will be mentioned in the governor's next book? Okay, that's all right. And then another question about do you recommend that at this point, if someone has received an email that now says go to SUNY Poly, do you recommend they go?
Well, based on what Sue just told us this morning, I would say no. But on the other hand, you don't know.
What if you're authentic?
We've been trying to contact the governor's office to determine, and they've been indicating that they're not honoring appointments. But in Sue's case, I think that's why I want to speak to her more specifically.
Yep.
Because if they also got an appointment, a lot of people went in and reapplied through the process. We've done that. I've had to navigate this, within our family relative to eligibility. So I think you'll have that opportunity at some point, but I don't know about today. And the problem is you don't have anyone to call. That's another thing we had. And you remember we've talked about it on your show. There should be a line where somebody that's on site that could make a determination based upon the information, and we can't find that either. And we've made a number of attempts to advocate for different changes and suggest different changes. And when you have the conversations, they say good point, but ultimately nothing differs. And you're right. There's got to be accountability here. And let's look at the fact of when you look at the sites. They made a site change, and we understand. I'm not sure what went into their decision as to where the site was going to be, but there was money, state funds being expended at one site, and all of a sudden that stopped, and they went to another site. What happened there? That's taxpayers' money.
Gotta wonder. You definitely have to wonder. Joe, the most important question, though, is how's your mom doing?
Mom's doing okay. She's probably watching you right now.
She
so
is.
You guys want to wave to her.
Good morning.
We will wave.
She was able to get her first dose. So
she was. That's awesome. And I got to tell you, it is.
And that was through the county. That was the county. We registered, went through that process. That site works really well, even though it's associated with the state. And boy, that drive-through that County Executive Sandy put together for the elderly,
that's
phenomenal. That's why the governor should be saying, look, this is a good model.
Yep.
Let's try to replicate this. Let's work together and make this better.
I just don't understand it. I really don't. Joe, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you. And let's see where this goes. You got to keep the pressure on here, though.